Hello, my name is Whittick. Welcome to Her Conversations, Tools for the Awakening Woman. Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. This is the optimal state to embody in order to attract our highest desires. Who is the awakening woman? She's a woman who's seeking a greater possibility in her reality and looking for solutions. She knows being awakened is not a lofty ideal but a necessity. If she can transform herself, she can change the world. Her conversations will introduce you to talented women who will speak to your spirituality, sensuality and soul. They share their stories and explain how they're in service to the world. So let their words and these conversations embolden and inspire you. My guest on this week's episode is Kalie Jade. She is a Reiki practitioner, a facilitator of Gong Baths and other healing modalities, including sound and animal therapies. During our conversation, we discussed the consciousness shift during the lockdown period, the people's acceptance of alternative methods and their willingness to do their work, and the acceleration in healing that she's noticed and how needing to move her services online has affected her business. But as always, I begin by asking my guests, HER is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. When do you feel you're most HER?
So I feel that I'm most HER probably when I'm facilitating really powerful events, such as I run these all-night Gong Baths, which are also known as Gong Pujas. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but that's the way I say it. And basically they involve people coming along and having an all-night Gong Bath. So you sort of lay down and you go to sleep with the gongs playing all through the night. So obviously you receive a phenomenal amount of healing during this time, and you kind of wake up feeling really different. You can't come away from a Gong Bath not feeling different, but imagine if you're receiving that all through the night. So it's at least 7.5 hours of vibrational healing. And it's just so powerful. And I think there's a lot of work goes into it. And, you have to set up the gong cage. So that's all of the gongs in a circle in the middle, put all your fairy lights out. And I think, and then once it's all taking place, you kind of stand back and watch it and think, my goodness, this is so amazing. And I think it's possibly, some crazy hour during the morning, because I stay up all night to oversee everything. And I just kind of look at it and go, wow. And I did an online version for summer solstice, just literally at the weekend, and I had a moment then when I just felt so alive and just thought it's that kind of sense of this is my purpose, I think. And I couldn't believe in a way that I'd managed to pull this off, because we weren't face to face, and I thought, how can I put something together that's going to be just as special, and bring everybody together in an online space. And actually I did this online Gong Bath whereby I was gonging until midnight, stopped the gongs at midnight, had some silence, some chimes, and then just my voice at the end. And everybody said, like, your voice at the end was just like in my head. And they all just went away feeling really really relaxed and sort of processing whatever they needed to process at that time. So yeah, I think particularly when I'm facilitating those kinds of events, but also when I'm doing, for example, online healing sessions, distance Reiki, and sort of animal communication readings, they're quite unusual. And not everybody sort of knows what they are, or that it's possible to send Reiki via distance around the world, anywhere you can send it. And I think I probably pick up the most information about a person's journey, their blockages, what needs to come up to the surface for them. So when I'm doing distance Reiki sessions before and during lockdown, I have these moments where I just think, wow. And one other thing is just when I'm doing my mediumship readings, when you get a really accurate piece of information come through that somebody can understand, you can't always get those really spot on kind of messages for people. But I did a reading a few weeks ago, and a spirit actually gave me the date of their passing, which was probably the first time I've ever had that. And it was just so beautiful. And we just had a really strong connection, and the healing that came forward for this lady who had lost her sister, it was just amazing. And it really, really helped her. So yeah, all of those kinds of moments, are just extremely powerful.
Perfect. It's exactly what it is. It's like getting everybody in there, like that moment when you feel in your power. That's what her's about, really. So I always like to hear from everyone how that represents itself to each one. And usually they're always talking about what it is that they do, what they're most passionate and purposeful about. And I just want to find out as well, what is your story in terms of how did you find out about your gifts and then turn it into the work that you're doing and offering?
So I think the story really begins when I was young. I don't know if I was before the age of being able to speak. So there's this story that I kind of tell people, but basically I was really little and I started pointing to a photograph, and it was a photograph of my granddad who I'd never met. And I was, saying, almost like granddad, but I couldn't say the word, and pointing, and my family were all, what's going on? He had passed before I was born. And, I started pointing to the photograph, then trying to take my family to the door and then to the stairs. And I think most people were a bit freaked out, so they didn't want to come with me. But my uncle was brave enough to come with me. And eventually I took him up the stairs and then into the bedroom. And, I was basically just seeing my granddad, the spirit of him who I'd never met. And that, I don't know if I actually remember it or if it's just because I've been told the story so many times, but it's a fantastic story. And so I had this experience where I saw the ghost of my granddad, and then I feel as if he's kind of stayed with me throughout my whole life. I think he's probably a spirit guide of mine, the only one I've had a real connection to in my development as a medium. And he's always there. Like when I started my journey, he's kind of always been there, I think possibly connecting me to the other spirits. But I have this really amazing connection to him, and I've never met him, but I feel as if I know him and he's helping me. That was probably the first thing that ever happened to me. And I haven't really seen spirit since. I don't see spirit. I only connect with them through my mind at the moment. I do welcome them to kind of show themselves at some point, when it's appropriate, not when I'm sleeping. But yeah, that was the first thing that happened. And then I think I've always felt different. I've always had this kind of sense of, feeling different, and there's a bigger purpose here for me on this earth plane. There's something more for me to do. And then I went to my first spiritualist church when I was at the age of 17, and my mum was brave enough to come with me at that point. And she's always been fascinated by spiritual things and mediums, and so there was always these kinds of books in the house. My mum was always reading these kinds of books. I didn't really read them at that age, but it was always around me, and my mum would always watch things like Crossing Over with John Edward, I think it was, and Colin Fry. So these things were always on the TV, and we would watch them. And then at the age of 17, as I said, we went to our first spiritualist church and sat in the circle and started to develop, really, which is basically sitting in a group of people in a circle and meditating and just gradually seeing what comes to you. So the journey began, I would say, at 17, and then throughout my life I've dipped in and out of these kind of like development groups and circles and churches. And I think it just depends what's going on in your life. Sometimes you're not able to continue the development, so I've come backwards and forwards with it, and it's been just a gradual journey. And then in my life I moved to Spain at the age of 18, and a lot of things happened there for me, so that was probably like the pivotal point of the journey. And then I came back to England and I studied journalism. So I did my journalism NCTJ qualification and realised journalism was not for me. I went into digital work, and I really, really enjoyed digital work. So I kind of worked on that platform for about 10 years, basically managing digital content and social media. And then in the sidelines, just doing all of my other spiritual work, my Reiki, all of these things, which was kind of like almost a hobby at the time. And then gradually in the last few years, so I think 2015 was a turning point. I kind of, through a lot of my own health problems actually, and things that I was going through at that time, just led me into actually stepping forward and switching that balance and just moving into becoming self-employed and finally being able to help others full time instead of doing it in my spare time. So yeah, life events led me into this path of actually just really focusing on more on my own, working to help others And that's now become my full-time work instead of just doing it whenever I can.
Good for you. Good for you. And one thing well, there's so much to speak about, but you, when we spoke, like initially, you were telling me that your dog had been given, like, was it 3 hours or 3 days?
3 hours,
3 hours to live, which is just like, I can't even imagine. And now we're talking like a couple of weeks later and dog is fine, and that's one of the things that you do. And you do work with animals. Like, what was that process? How did you work with the energy of your dog to make sure that your dog is well and thriving with you today?
So basically he was diagnosed with cancer, with a massive tumor on the spleen. And I don't have a medical background, but my partner actually does. But yeah, so we were sort of initially told a few different things when he had the test, the blood test, and then he went straight over for the scan, and we found out this. And he went in for fluids, so he was put on fluids all day. And then I think the next day the vet called us and said, it is time. I think the kindest thing now is just to put him to sleep, because he also had enlarged prostate as well, so he had a few different things going on. He was given medication, antibiotics and painkillers. So basically we decided not to put him to sleep, because we thought, actually, personally, we need time and he needs time with us. So we brought him home, and we almost had a living funeral in a way on that day, on the Friday a couple of weeks ago. And did some saying goodbyes to different people, did some phone calls, and he wasn't really moving at the time. He was just laying in his bed. A couple of friends did come around just to see him at a safe distance, just to say goodbye. And he actually got up, which was really adorable. He hadn't moved, and he got up, he remembered them, and he got up, just to speak to them. And then he got back in his bed, and we just continued with what we were doing, which was, he had to eat certain food, like boiled chicken, this kind of thing. You have to, follow the advice that you're given. And we were giving him the medication. We gave him the painkillers, the antibiotics, which did seem to be helping. But aside from that, I just did a lot of Reiki healing on him. I just sat with him. I was trying to do it probably twice a day in the beginning, trying to just spend time with him, because I feel as if I haven't given him the attention that I should have given him. Because I have a puppy. Well, she's 3 years old now, but when the puppy arrived, she did become the center of attention. And I was sort of wanted to apologize to him as well in my mind, just apologize for not giving him the attention that I should have. So I really just gave him loads and loads of attention and care. And he's also been having CBD oil as well. So I was giving him some of my CBD oil. Which I've been told by my parents, they did that for one of our family dogs, and that gave that dog another 6 months when it was told, this is your time, this is goodbye, and they were like, no, we're going to give it CBD oil. And the vets have all said that they just have not seen this kind of transformation before. Wow. Which is really encouraging. And our vet said they haven't seen this kind of turnaround like in our dog. Only once before in her career has she seen this kind of, recovery. Wow. So it's really inspiring. And I think technically he does still have cancer. We haven't rescanned or anything like that yet, but he's back to playing and running around and eating and drinking. And you just would not know that there's anything wrong. So we're just going to keep doing what we're doing with the Reiki healing and the CBD oil, and just the lots of love and attention, and see what happens, really.
That's so good. And that's like such an amazing like testimony to what your healing does, and like for people that are have used CBD oil as well. I don't know, I think I mentioned to you before that I helped promote for a company the CBD oil, so I had to really get into the understanding of how it works on the body and the system that it works on in the body, and why it actually works. And it's because I think with modern medicine as it is, we're used to just taking things that are going to get rid of like visible symptoms, like we'll cut stuff off or burn it out or anything like that. Whereas when you're working with a CBD oil, it's working on a different system that actually cuts things down at the source, or the endocannabinoid system is such a mysterious system, and it governs so many different things within the body that it sounds like it's a miracle cure because a lot of the time, most of the time when I was working, I was kind of working with humans. So obviously, So I spoke to humans, of course I spoke to humans, but mainly like the client base were people that had a range of different a range of different conditions. So it would be things like arthritic pain, skin complaints, like stomach issues, migraines, even to the extent, and you can never kind of say anything along the lines of, yeah, if you take this, then your cancer will go away. I could only speak about circumstantial things because, when it's like that, but the amount of time that people would come to me with tears in their eyes or like tell a story of someone that had been given, this is it, put your affairs in order kind of prognosis, and then they're like, yeah, but they're here like 2 years later, and they got married and had a child and went on with their life. So it's good that it's one of those things that we're going into like more natural, or people are more open into alternative options and remedies, and not steering away from it. And we do, doctors, vets, all of those medical professionals are there for a reason, and they have a knowledge base, but sometimes they can only see past working with the knowledge base that they have. And if they look at something, on paper, it's like, okay, you've got a tumor, it looks like that, by my calculation, it's, you go and sort your stuff out. Whereas when you come in with the energy, it's you're taking things at a different point, a different point of view to healing. And maybe, are you finding that people are more open to alternative healings when you do like sound therapy, but in particular things like Reiki, how have you noticed in particular over this period of time, have you noticed like a change in your clientele, what they're coming to you and asking for with regards to healing?
Yeah, I think people are, just realizing that actually, you have to do the work. And I think just following on from what you just said, you can't just take a painkiller and numb the pain. What we do energetically is, we work on, what's going on beneath the surface. And what we need to do is we need to release those things. We need to bring them up. We need to not keep everything sort of, buried. We need to discuss our feelings, and we need to work out what we're still holding on to from the past, because we're so bad at, just holding on to things, and especially like anger and resentment and things like this. And so what I do as a practitioner is I kind of almost go in, like I use Reiki as a mind map to identify what's going on, where are you holding this energy. And that's something that comes up for me a lot, is I kind of go, right, okay, so in the heart chakra we've got this is coming up from, I don't know, so many years ago. In this chakra I've identified something else. So I think sometimes just by bringing it all up, just mentioning it works. It helps to heal. But yeah, I'm finding that people are becoming more open to complementary therapies and seeking help elsewhere, but also just realizing that they've got work to do. And I'm also finding that the healing ability, the rate of healing is speeding up, if that makes sense. People are able to come for one session and see a difference, whether it's sound therapy or Reiki healing. We can see such a difference just in one session to how somebody's feeling. They're feeling lighter, they feel like they've shifted something. And I always recommend that you have a few sessions. You don't just walk away, because the more you do something, the more it's going to help you. And sometimes we just need to delve in a little bit more and keep doing the work. But we can't mask things, and we can't ignore them as well. It's really important to, whether it's a talking therapy or a relaxing therapy where you don't need to even say what's going on. I always describe sound healing as counselling without words. You don't actually need to say anything. And somebody said to me on the phone, I think it was yesterday, she said, I don't want to talk about everything. I know what my problem is. It's grief, and I don't want to talk about it. I just want to receive some healing and move forward. And that's exactly what these kind of therapies do. They kind of allow me to go in at a deeper level, figure out what's going on, and allow them to process and resurface that that grief, the healing that needs to take place.
That's good. That's really interesting. Why do you think it is that the healing, do you have any like personal theories as to why you think things are actually people are open to being healed quickly, because it was the discussion, you know, I had the other day with regards to when people have certain illnesses, they do manifest the illnesses for some subconscious reason. There's always a reason why something will come to play, and there's, as hard as it may seem, there's usually some benefit of some sort for us to go through that, even if it is just the journey and who we become on the other side, or what it creates in terms of our relationship with people around us, because we have this thing. But yeah, what do you think has made a change in the rate of people's healing?
Do you know, I think there's a lot that's been going on at this time, and you know, we've had discussions off the air about this, but I think I've just noticed that things have really sped up during this whole lockdown period.
Sure.
You know, it's like the barriers have been broken down, and actually this is our time to heal. I think we're being assisted from a higher perspective. And, you know, I've noticed even my mediumship has been, you know, I'm still not on the platform mediumship. So that means I don't stand up and do it in front of an audience. It's something that I'm working towards, but I'm doing it in my own time. But I feel like my own mediumship has accelerated during this lockdown period. And as I said, you know, the people are seeing faster results. So I just think there's a bigger picture going on behind the scenes that we can't see, perhaps, but people are noticing. You know, there's talk of people having vibrations in the ears, ringing in the ears. That's something that I've suffered with, and some of my spiritual friends, like Reiki healers and psychic mediums, have been experiencing. And actually, I was told about that way back in, I think, December, because I started to notice something going on then, and I didn't know if it was tinnitus or if it was from the gongs. Actually, I started to question if the gongs were giving me this vibrations in my ears. And I spoke to a gong player back then, and he said to me, lots of psychics have said the same thing. They're getting it at a certain time of the day. And perhaps it's just what's going on for us. We're being assisted in our development, in our ascension at the moment. So I think everything is speeding up, and it's just leading us forward on our journey of ascension, which is a whole different conversation.
It is. And I can go down that rabbit hole if you want to, but no, I actually, no, I'm there 100% with you. There are there is definitely a change in an ascension going, and you know, if you think, for me, as someone who kind of works very fluidly, it's like been a long time since I've done like the 9 to 5 structure. So my awareness of days in that kind of way broke down a long time ago. And then I've spent like extended times traveling. So that routine has gone out the window. But on a collective, because the majority of people have had to lose that, oh my God, I wake up this time, I get on the train at this time, and that kind of structure, and also awareness of the structure of time, which, you know, exists when you put your awareness on it, and then when we forget about it, then we just kind of float around in this like space. And then, you know, it's only when we kind of draw ourselves back to the awareness of what time is it, and then it becomes a thing, you know. And I'm sure you experience that when you're doing something that you really love, like you say you do these all-night gong baths, and I'm sure that they don't feel like 7 or 8 hours when you're in them. It's just like this kind of like space of like energy and just goodness, and just, you know, that kind of like vibration of like nowness but neverness, if that makes sense, really, you know. Whereas if I think, when I remember the times that in between times I've gone and done like a real job, and 2 minutes it might as well be 2 days, you know. And it's just like saying how the structure of time can be really rigid, and if you're caught in that structure of time and you're in something that doesn't resonate with you, then it really drags you through it and will age you, you know. Or you can tell the difference between, if you see someone like, especially musicians who love their work, and if you see someone who's been a musician for like 50-60 years and has loved what they do, and then you see someone who's had a very regimented time at work, like 9 to 5 for the 40 or 50 years, put those two people together and you'll see within their energy and within their body, the person who's done what they've loved the most will just look, you know, they might age, but they don't look so worn as opposed to the person that's kind of pushed themselves through the structure of time. And I think, like you're saying, with the structure of time kind of like melting away a little bit, because we don't have to really be anywhere or do anything in any particular time, as opposed to like working out our own time scale, has made it really fluid. And then also speed things up, because then you're sitting here going, hang on a minute, we've been locked up for like 3 months, and then it doesn't feel like it, right?
It's flown by. But I think actually people are like, not just us, just people have been on such a period of awakening. And what I'm finding interesting is watching how people, like, on the surface level, they've been thrown off course, they may have lost their jobs, but actually if you look at that from another angle, people are being pushed in the direction that they actually want to be in. So maybe they've been working these jobs that they're really not enjoying, and I'm seeing people really kind of like thinking about what they want to do, and is this really what I want to do? Something I've seen is a lot of people moving house, making sort of last minute decisions in lockdown to move to a completely different area, and somewhere that makes them happy, you know, following their soul's desire. That's something that's really coming out from lockdown. And I really admire that, and I welcome that for everybody, to really connect to your soul's purpose and do what makes you happy. And it's definitely, for me, I've been thinking about the changes that I want to make to my own work and how I want to run my events and things, and what direction am I going in. So I keep trying to get that message across, that it's okay to question things at the moment. It's okay to feel lost, because feeling lost actually leads you to the right place. There's that saying, isn't there, difficult roads lead to beautiful destinations. And I think this is exactly the path that we're on at the moment. We're all questioning and deciding what it is that we want to do, and the bits that we want to change about our lives going forward.
I think it's going to, when we look back on this time in history, we'll realize how amazing it is.
Really?
It's just like in the midst of it, and in the midst of all this uncertainty, in the midst of a lot of fear as well, and confusion, then it can, you know, feel like, oh my God, what's happening? Everything's falling to bits. But this is collectively, you know, we're all experiencing, people who've gone through spiritual awakenings before have had this before, but never have you. And usually when you have your dark night of the soul, it's a very solo endeavor, you know, it's like very, very much you go through it on your own. And even though we are still experiencing it on our own, but we're surrounded by everyone who's going through it at the same time, even though some people may not realize that that's what it is, because they don't have a name for it, and it just looks like, you know, everything's going to hell. But it's kind of just like a lot of structures are being broken down right now, and structures that we have held up and gone along with, and, you know, and given away a lot of our power. I mean, that's one of the biggest things, and this is what people are reclaiming, their own power, their own just finding out really what it is that you think, like you say, what it is that you want to do. Because then when you like fall into that, and then you're like, oh my God, well, this is actually what I want to do, and then maybe trying to work out how it is. You're sitting at home all day long, you've got you've got the computer, you've got whole like YouTube, you can learn so much, and you can literally do a pivot. So many people realize that they can do their job from home, you know, so it's changed the relationship with their family, made it better. Some people have realized that they don't want to be in the relationship, you know, but it's like really clearing up some stuff, and it's hard because it's change and it feels enforced, but it's an amazing thing, I think.
Yeah, I think it's been really lovely to watch, actually, that fear kind of, because it was awful in the beginning, wasn't it? Just that, I don't know if you could feel it, that collective energy. I was waking up actually nearly being sick, because I think it was just that collective energy of everyone's fear at the beginning. Whereas I think spiritual people, myself very much so, I was really excited at the prospect of lockdown, and I could feel that excitement, and people that I was talking to, because we were like, this is it, you know, spiritual people. We've known about this for so many years. It's happening. And I was really excited, you know, just to have more time, because I've been so busy as well. I've got caught up, even though I work for myself, I work more being self-employed, because you're always working.
True.
But yeah, so I was really excited to have more time, and I was thinking I'm going to do this and that, and actually I haven't had time to do all the things I wanted to do, but I've enjoyed nature walks, having a bit of a morning practice, doing my meditation, my breath work, all this kinds of stuff. I've been doing lots of cold showers, and so I've been really enjoying my time, but also continuing to do that sort of spiritual work as well. But as I said, it's just been lovely to watch that fear just kind of, dissolving, and people are making peace with the situation. They've enjoyed time with their families, they've learned something new, or they've just taken a complete rest. Some people have been in a position where they've just stopped working, they've just enjoyed it, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Because before long, you probably will be rushing around again. But yeah, so it's been really nice to watch that process, that awakening happening in other people.
No, I'm with you as well. I it's been, so many people have just discovered their neighborhoods, because you live somewhere but you're always like off in the car or off on the train, and with the busyness of things, and then coming back, and also now that the weather has changed as well and it's got a little bit warmer, that's always a nice time, because it kind of puts everyone more at ease. And I do see that there are people that are still very concerned and very confused about what there is. I think it's also a time to listen to the voice, because I think during this time as well, I've noticed that there has been like a real awakening to people, just like what's going on in the world, a little bit more concern and care about what is really happening, and maybe what's been told to them, and actually feeling into intuition and things that may not actually feel or sound right, as opposed to you'd be so busy going, it doesn't feel right, but I just don't have time for it. It's like, that doesn't make sense. And then, really endeavoring to inquire within yourself to like feel into what feels right and what doesn't, and then finding it, and then speaking to other people who are kind of feeling the same as well, because that spiritual awakening, that spiritual journey can be really isolating, because it takes its time, it moves at the pace that it moves at, really, that you can't rush that thing through.
That's the essence of what I teach people. It's really interesting. In all of my workshops, my self-development classes and workshops, I teach people to follow their gut instinct. That's one of the biggest lessons that I teach, is just to work from your heart space, and instead of focused on your head space where we overthink and we worry too much. Do what feels right, makes decisions from the heart. And I even use the example of when you're going to a new place, when you're looking for say you're going for a job interview or something. This is what I always used to do in the past. Instead of just relying on your phone and your map, to actually stand there and go, okay, do I turn left or right? What feels right? And that's a really good technique to try and work with your instinct, your gut instinct.
And how you did something over the solstice as well. How was that for you? Did it feel different this year, because there were so many other things happening over that weekend? Did it feel like kind of more amplified? Because I didn't do anything other than like my own personal awareness and kind of tapping into that. But I noticed, like, on the other side of it, everyone seemed a bit crazy. Did you know?
Oh, really? I
don't know. It just seemed to be like, I don't know where the Schumann resonance was on that day, but it just felt like everything was like amplified, and everyone came out the other end just like super pranged in a way that it's like, oh my God, what am I going to do with all of this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I felt so much excitement. I felt electricity in the air. I wrote an Instagram post on the beginning of all this. But yeah, so I think we had a summer solstice, we had the new moon, we had the eclipse.
Yeah.
There was a lot going on. And yeah, I would just describe it as electricity in the air. And I think people were really feeling like, right, what do I want to channel? What do I want to come? What do I want to change about myself? What do I need to let go of? And, I just had such good feedback from the event that I ran online. And one thing I was really grateful for was no technical issues.
Oh, amazing.
I was quite nervous about, Zoom, and I even did a test run in the day and a few things went wrong. And I was just, putting out the thoughts and the prayers for the technology just to work perfectly so that everybody could enjoy this event. And I'm so grateful that it was powerful, you know, in an online space. Everybody really enjoyed it, and they just felt, some people fell asleep, but there was such amazing feedback from it, that everyone was just, you know, laying in bed in their own houses, and they just felt such a powerful energy coming from this online gong bath.
That's so cool. And I know that, what kind of intentions or what kind of space do you ask people to be in around that time? And also, I know it was, you know, a week or so ago, but, you know, it still lingers a little bit. So what can we do to like capitalize on that kind of energy space opening up for us, and you know, use it to our benefit going forward?
I think I always ask people to set an intention, whether we're doing Reiki or sound baths, whatever it is. Think about what it is that you need in this moment. What are you struggling with? What comes up? If you think instinctively, what comes up in, you know, in my mind? What do I need to work on? And this can be on a mental, emotional, or physical level. So it might be that you're manifesting pain, illness in your body. It could be just, you know, the thoughts that are coming up in your mind. You still haven't moved forward from a certain, you know, experience. So just really thinking about what it is that comes up for you. And I think sometimes journaling can be a very good way to tap into that, because you're not aware of what's actually going on. So by sitting down and just, you know, writing creatively about what's going on for you, you can start to see patterns, and you need to be aware of the thought patterns that are coming up and the things that you really do need to let go of. Because none of us are perfect. I'm definitely not perfect, and there's things that I need to work on myself, and I'm just trying to identify what those are. And I think sometimes we have this tendency to just, you know, have those negative thoughts, and it's trying to work out what they are and why do they keep coming up, and how do I let go of them. So sometimes writing them down, you know, burning them, you know, those kinds of things can be really helpful with that physical sense of release.
Great. And I just wanted to ask you just one more thing as well, was with the lockdown, everyone's like realized like the power of the internet in terms of communicating as well. And how have you tailored your practice and your skills and your client base and your business to that? And have you found that it's like made it better? Has it created a different diversion for you? Have you worked with, you know, everything coming through Zoom now? I think I do a Zoom call every day of my life now.
Well, it's been fascinating, hasn't it? The fact that I think most of us have not heard of Zoom before, and now we're using on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Having technical issues right now in my mind. Yeah, but I think it's been amazing, because I think no one knew what to expect at the start of lockdown, and I think a lot of us thought, that's it, you know, we're not going to be able to continue to work. And I think personally, I just have such a drive. I'm really kind of motivated, although I have struggled at times in lockdown. I'm not perfect, and there's been days where we've had low energy. I think I had a whole week where I just couldn't focus, I couldn't think, I couldn't do anything. But I've kept trying to come back to that inner sort of drive, and I sort of surprised myself, really, to be honest, that I've managed to actually move everything online. As a Reiki practitioner, part of our training in level 2 is to do distance Reiki. So that's not a new thing to us. We do that anyway. Some people choose to work with the distance energy and some people don't, but it's something I very much do, but more like every now and again. It's not something that's regular. I just kind of maybe sometimes send out, if somebody's struggling, a friend or a family member, or they need some healing, I will just send it out to them. But what I've been doing now is doing the distance Reiki sessions online. So if you were to come to me for a one-to-one Reiki session, you would lay down as if you're on a massage bed and you're going to have a massage, but with Reiki. So now what I do is I do the 30-minute session all online and through Zoom, and I play music through the computer, and people lay down on their beds, they close their eyes and they just receive, and they almost feel that energy the same as they would face to face. They might feel tingling sensations in the body. They might feel, you know, maybe hot spots, cold spots, numbness, you know, have strong visualizations. Everybody's different, but they do have quite powerful experiences through the computer. And that's also carried through with the sound baths as well. I think a lot of us thought it's not going to be possible, and I've seen a lot of sound therapists saying it's not possible, you can't do it online. But a few of us have, you know, adjusted the settings in Zoom, and we've managed to make it work for us, you know, making sure people use headphones. And I've been able to do online gong baths, you know, as I've explained, and they've been powerful. and you can still feel the vibrations through the computer. So, you know, maybe the sound quality is not exactly the same as it would be. It's not going to be the same experience as face to face, but we can still do amazing work online. So I have basically been running pop-up events. I've done new moon events with a shamanic healer as well. We do a monthly event whereby we do a breath work session and a gong bath combined, and those have been extremely powerful and transformational. So we're just preparing to organize one for July around the new moon, so really looking forward to that. And that's very much a space of letting go. It's, you know, facing things that are coming up and letting it go, and then processing the effects of the breath work throughout the gong bath. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. So I think, yeah, ultimately this has opened up a new space for online working. And I have thought about creating, you know, online sort of powerful transformational coaching, or, you know, a series of workshops, or, you know, an online program. Basically, that's something that's been sort of in my mind, and I haven't really had time to delve into it. But I'm definitely going to be recording online sessions and, you know, starting my YouTube channel properly and doing all of these things that I've been meant to start for a long time.
That's all right. But good for you. No, on the internet's a wonderful thing, and well, good, you know, good and bad. It can go either way, you know. But it's like any tool, you know, you can skill yourself up on how to use it, or it can be the detriment of you when you can just kind of sit and like zone out to like Netflix for days and days. So, you know, you can do with it what you want, but it's just amazing that how it's transformed the life and the freedom for somebody, you know. So it means you can travel and work. And you know, the next step for me is like always the futurist, is just thinking of the time where we are able we all kind of tap into that point where we connect without the technology and the bits and pieces as well, you know. So I'm always like the next step. I don't think we're far off. I really don't. Separate conversation. Anyway, but let me ask you the Her Conversations questions that I ask all my guests. So the first one is, what is the best piece of advice a woman has ever given to you?
So yeah, when I thought about this question, what came to mind is something that was helpful for me, because I think sometimes I've definitely struggled with the way people treat you, and I think feeling left out, that was something that I have struggled with in my life, you know, people, you know, doing things and not including you. And the advice that someone gave me was, you can't change other people's behaviors, you can only change your reaction. And that was really, really helpful, because that you can then apply that to every situation that comes up. And, you know, and then you can control your own feelings, because we create all of this in our mind, don't we? So actually what you need to do is stop reacting in that way, and making assumptions as well, because you don't always know what's going on for somebody else in their life, you know, why they've made a certain plan or something. So I think it's just a really good piece of advice that I've tried to take on board. And something else that actually wasn't by a woman, but my dad always said to me, there's no such thing as can't. And that stuck with me my whole life. And I think that's why I get these crazy ideas for events, you know, especially the online summer solstice event. And I just had this vision, and it came to me because I didn't mention earlier, but part of the idea was to project Stonehenge onto the wall. So I'm not good at the technical logistics of things, but it all came together and we managed to pull it off. But we had a live feed of Stonehenge, which was projected onto the wall as the backdrop for the gonging, and a really beautiful opening ceremony. So I have these ideas, and we also managed to do a chant for world peace as well. Right. And also I was trying to raise some funds for Papyrus, a suicide charity. So I was trying to spread a message as well. And all of this came together, and it was really, really special. So yeah, I would recommend that people think about the fact that there's no such thing as can't. In life, anything is possible. If you can dream it, believe it, you can make it happen.
Oh, I'm with you 100%. Like usually, like if it turns up in my head, I'm like, then it exists already. It's like, then my little challenge is to work out how to bring the physicalities together. Yeah. And sometimes it's not even, you know, sometimes even like overthinking how it's going to happen is like too much work. It's just kind of like looking at the little bits of things that I've got and kind of starting to put them together with the intention that something's going to come of it. And it just, people turn up, the right article turns up, something, it just all kind of happens in its time. If you just, there's the idea and you're like, okay, I'm going to go for it. You just kind of step, and then it turns up. It really does. It's a magical thing. I love that saying.
Yeah, and I always believe in, following the signs. I always teach people to follow the signs, because you will really see those signs if you're paying attention. Yeah.
Yeah. Be open. The world is magical. It really is.
And people are really open to this mindset now, because, we've had The Secret, the Law of Attraction. I remember reading those things, those books, gosh, maybe so many years ago, 12 years ago, possibly. And just, that was such a pivotal point for me, just realizing that you can actually control your life. You are in control of your destiny.
Yeah, as soon as everyone works it out, it'll be amazing. It'll be great. And so what do you do? What's your favorite like ritual or self-care practice? How do you take time out for yourself?
I think something that I've definitely been doing in lockdown, whilst I've had the time, is really having that morning structure, and getting up, doing a breathwork session and a meditation for the day ahead. So trying to start off positively, think about maybe setting an intention for the day, and then doing some I'm very terrible at doing my stretches, but trying to do morning stretches, and then having a cold shower. That's become my thing. I absolutely love having a cold shower. And I don't do it every single day, but I do it as much as I can, and that just makes me feel energized and revitalized. And I think even whilst I'm in the shower, I'm giving thanks. I'm doing my gratitude in the shower. It's, thanking my body for feeling revitalized, energized. And you can feel, if you've ever had a cold shower, you can feel that tingling sensation afterwards, and it just makes you feel more alert. I think I would have about 3 cold showers a day if I could. I'm getting a bit addicted. But yeah, so doing that kind of thing in the morning has become my kind of ritual. And I love just sneaking in a little face mask as well in that process. And, just feeling like you're kind of, and a steam bowl as well, so you're looking after your skin whilst also looking after your mind and then your body. So yeah, it's my little ritual.
I've kind of ducked out of the cold showers, but when I was doing it regularly, because initially your mind's like, cold shower, why would you ever want to do that to yourself? But then when you find out what the benefits are in terms of what it does for your immunity, what it does, like it helps you burn fat, like if ever there was a reason, like just have a cold, it's like a quick toning thing. It helps you build collagen. But I don't know if you get this sensation. I used to get it as well, is after a while, like you know that you're under cold water, but it actually doesn't feel cold.
Definitely. I mean, I went in the sea one day in lockdown as well. I went to the beach on the previous hottest day of the year, and I just had it in my head that I was going to go in the sea. And that's something that's quite out of character for me. But I just had this goal. I'm going to go in the sea today. And I did. And I think I went in once and sort of stepped back out. And then the second time I went in, it did not feel cold anymore at all. And I didn't have a wetsuit on. I was in my bikini. Got the picture on Instagram. But yeah, it was great. So you do get used to it, but there is an adjustment. So, sometimes if you're not feeling able for it, you can have a hot shower and then turn it cold. But I actually love turning it colder throughout the shower. And then at the last bit, it's ice cold. So I think the next stage is moving on to the ice baths. But I've sort of done one cold water bath, but I haven't done an ice bath yet.
Have you not?
Looking forward to that.
There's so many things to try, and then there's what is the name? Is it cryogenics? Have I got the name right? Where you're almost like literally going in a freezer up to your neck.
I think you might mean cryotherapy.
Maybe it's that. Yeah, probably.
I've done that as well.
Have you? How was that?
Yeah, I mean, this was way before I did the cold showers. I was trying to use that in terms of, I have fibromyalgia, which is something I'm still working on healing. I don't have it nowhere near as bad as a lot of people, but so I wanted to use it for that. But that's when I first felt the tingling sensations and that instant sense of feeling more alert and more sort of energized. But yeah, I think it's great. I think it's used more by sports people and for that instant recovery from exercise. So yeah, I would recommend giving cryotherapy a go. It's something that I'm going to try and have a session soon.
Yeah, it's on my list of things to try at least once before I go like, that's crazy. Yeah. I'd love to try that.
Well, I went back for more.
And so what's coming up next for you? What have you got? Courses, online programs, and when we're finally released back into society, what's happening there?
So I've actually got, talking of courses, you just reminded me, I've actually got my shamanic training, which was supposed to start, I can't remember when it was supposed to start, maybe June. So we're waiting for the go ahead for large groups. So it's an advanced pathway shamanic training. So I've been trying to see what I'm drawn to do next. And there's always things as a spiritual person, you never want to stop learning, and adding these skills. So I've got that training booked. It's coming up, possibly maybe September. I'm really looking forward to that. And I would like to become a Reiki master teacher. So I'm already a Reiki master, but I'm going to do some training to actually run my own Reiki workshops. But I think it's very much when it feels right for you. And I've left a very long gap between my Reiki master and my Reiki master teacher. That's just the way I felt I wanted to do it. So I'll be doing that. And then, just continuing to develop. I would like to actually have a qualification in breathwork and lead my own breathwork sessions. So just continuously following that intuition, as I described earlier, and what feels right for me to do next. But in a work sense, I think I'm very much drawn to running my own retreats, and that's something I started to looking into before lockdown. I have one venue in mind, but I have this big goal to run retreats for women and very transformational healing retreats, where you go with something particular that you want to let go of and move forward. So I'm looking into, I've got a really beautiful venue that I might hopefully be working with abroad in Spain. So maybe next year. So I need to manifest that and make it happen. But yeah, retreats is definitely a big goal for me next, and just creating really powerful spaces for healing. So taking my sound baths to the next level. I've been doing a lot of monthly sound baths, but I would like to stop doing so many of those and do powerful pop-up, really transformational healing events.
Amazing. Yeah, travel. Oh.
I won't get on a plane anytime soon, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. I just have to look in the sky and just kind of pretend and remember what that's like. But that it'll all come back to us soon.
Definitely, yeah.
And so where can everybody find you? What are your social media and website addresses?
So my website address is diaryofaPsychic.com. So that's quite easy to remember. And my Instagram handle is Psychic Lady K. I normally spell it out for people. I'll do that now. Psychic Lady K, PSYCHIC. And my Facebook, I need to actually streamline everything so they've got the same sort of address. But my Facebook page is at the moment, if you just search for KJ Therapies, but I'm going to switch it over to Psychic Lady K, I think, at some point. But yeah, my website is diaryofaPsychic.com, and that's where you can find all the other links to everything. And the best way to stay involved and stay connected to all of my upcoming news and events is via the newsletter that I send out once a month. So if you go to the homepage of my website, there's a little purple button, and that's where you can sign up at the bottom there for the newsletters, and don't miss anything that's coming up, because it's so changeable at the moment, isn't it? We're changing our plans on a daily basis. So the newsletter is the best way to find out, or Instagram stories.
Yeah. Thank God for social media.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been great. And it's been great to hear about your dog and that he's well as well. That's an amazing turnaround, because it was so different like a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is an amazing podcast, an amazing platform to, spread awareness. So I think you will draw in the right people that need to listen at the moment. So thanks so much for having me. It's been really lovely just to share some of the things that have been going on recently.
Yeah, and it's for me, it's always good to have a natter.
Yeah, that as well, the female space.
Perfect.
Thank you, Kalie, for being my guest on this week's Her Conversations, and thank you for listening. You can find out more about me on my website, which is carolmaywhittick.com, carolmaywhittick.com. On Facebook, I have a page, Carol May Whittick, and on Twitter and Instagram, my handle is Casmic, that's CAZMICK.
So until the next week, wishing you all the best. Speak soon and take care. Thank you.